What if we told you that there are villages in Vietnam's Mekong Delta where rat meat is considered to be a delicacy? As shocking as it sounds, the people in these villages aren't just chowing down on rodents because they don't have anything better. This is an extremely profitable industry we're talking about, and it supplies rat meat all across the country. So stay tuned while we tell you about the thriving rat meat industry of Vietnam. For starters, let's talk about the why. We're all wondering the same thing, aren't we? There are so many delicious types of meat in the world that it's hard to understand why anyone would turn to rat meat. But with that said, there are actually a few good reasons why the people of the Mekong Delta spend so much time hunting rats and processing their meat. Perhaps the most important reason is that it's a surprisingly profitable career path. There's an enormous demand for rat meat, and you'd be surprised at just how tasty it can be when prepared the right way. Not everyone will be brave enough to give it a try, of course, but then again, there are all sorts of different kinds of meat that might gross you out. The simple answer is that rat catchers in these villages can earn a pretty penny for all of their efforts. The industry is so massive that the people participating in this business sometimes have to import rats from neighboring Cambodia, which should tell you a thing or two about how much cash they're raking in. The next question on your mind is whether this is safe. In order to answer that, we need to understand how the rats are caught in the first place. The most important thing to know is that these aren't the sort of vermin that you would hire a pest exterminator for. Most people think of the dirty, disease-causing rodents that cause the bubonic plague. But those are city rats that live off sewage and other unmentionable things. They spread diseases because of their absolutely filthy living condition. But the rats that people eat in Vietnam are a completely different species. They're field rats and bandicoot rats for the most part, and they grow up in the lush rice paddies of the Mekong Delta. The rat catching season starts when the rice crop reaches peak ripeness, and the little critters get nice and fat by feasting on these grains. Since they exist in such clean, natural surroundings, there's absolutely no chance that they cause diseases of any kind. Oh, and if you're still nauseous at this practice, just read up on the factory-farmed meat that you eat every day. They pump so many antibiotics into those chickens and cows because they'd be extremely sick without them, and those diseases will be passed down to you. By comparison, rats start to seem downright healthy. Also, their diet makes it so that their meat is extremely juicy and fatty. We get that this might make you squirm in your seats, but you shouldn't knock it until you try it. Seriously, the way that they're prepared make these rats look like little nuggets of heaven, and their flavor is apparently to die for. It might help to look at them as just another kind of small game. People eat rabbits all the time, and even squirrels. So, how are rats any different? On top of that, they tend to damage the rice crop if they're left to their own devices. And since the Mekong Delta is essentially Vietnam's bread basket, local farmers can't really afford to let them run wild. The rat meat industry removes a serious threat to the rice crop, and considering that Vietnam is the third largest rice exporter in the world, it just makes economic sense. Factor in the extra protein that people are getting, and you can start to understand just how perfect of a system this can be. Rice tends to attain peak ripeness during the spring, and that's when the rat catchers at the Mekong Delta get to work. Based on what they've said, these hunters can earn upwards of $150 a night during the season. That's a pretty decent chunk of change if you think about it. Like, Vietnam's economy is nowhere near as big as America's, and these hunters are earning over an entire day's minimum wage pay in just a few short hours, all in a country that has an extremely low cost of living. An average Vietnamese family of 4 needs a little over $1,500 per month to live a decent life, so these rat hunters can earn a solid salary from a couple of weeks of work. That's just too good of an opportunity to pass up. And all those other advantages we mentioned can't be ignored either. So, how exactly does the rat catching process work? Do these hunters just set up mouse traps with a bit of cheese on them and wait around? Not quite. They probably wish it was easy as that, because getting enough of a supply to fuel the industry requires a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Okay, maybe blood is a bit of an overstatement, but you get what we mean. This is a very labor-intensive process, and it requires a lot of specialized knowledge as well. An average hunter brings in 40 to 60 pounds of rats in a single night, and they're only able to hit that dizzying statistic through some good old-fashioned hard work. The main tool that they use is a type of snare made of bamboo. It contains a piece of taut rubber that can snap and capture a rat if the timing is just right. That's yet another advantage of this process, by the way. Like, if you want to get rid of rats in your apartment, you're probably poison them. This way, they don't suffer at all, and it's also way more environmentally friendly. Once they've caught enough rats, the hunters take their haul back to the village for cleaning and processing. They sort the rats by color and weight before stuffing them into steel crates before ending their lives. It might sound a little cruel, but they basically just whack them over the heads with rocks to quickly snuff them out. Remember, most people just poison rats and cause them a ton of pain before they die. Following this, the workers remove their tails, feet, and skin. Their ears are also taken off, but they're not just thrown away. Instead, they're sold as fish food, which further proves how many useful products come out of a single rat. The rats are now ready to be cooked, and they're put on ice before being transported around the country where hungry diners munch on them with delight. A lot of you would still be a bit green around the gills at the very thought of eating rats, but it's all about context. Like, if you think about it, this is completely organic, grain-fed, wild-caught meat. Salmon described like this is a luxurious delicacy. So, how are rats any different? Especially when they're perfectly safe to consume. This is also a testament to the tremendous work ethic of the Vietnamese people. They don't cut corners or take any chances because they know that their customers are expecting the best products possible. All in all, this industry nets the Mekong Delta villagers around $2 million per year. That's the value of approximately 3,600 tons of rat meat. And considering that your average field rat weighs half a pound and bandicoot rats weigh about 2 pounds, that's a massive quantity harvested each and every year. Hundreds of families in this area make their living purely from catching, processing, and selling of rat meat. If you ever visited Vietnam, you'll probably see street vendors cooking up these rodents in a variety of ways. They can be barbecued, deep fried, or turned into a soup. So anyone that's open-minded enough to eat them will be spoiled for choice. The only question left to answer is how they taste, and you'll either be amazed or disappointed by the answer. Any guesses before we make the big reveal? If you guessed chicken, you'd be absolutely right. Well, sort of. We know that it's a bit of a trope to say that something tastes like chicken, but in this case, it's a solid comparison. It might be more accurate to describe the meat as a cross between fatty chicken thighs and pork loins. The fattiness is what brings all the flavor, and there's a surprising amount of meat packed onto these critters thanks to their healthy diet. So, what do you think? Will you venture down to Vietnam and eat a rat in the future? Or will nothing ever convince you to give them a try? Let us know in the comments below. That's all for now. See ya.